The corruption investigation team now seeks to bring the unresponsive president back for questioning by force. On Sunday, President Yun Myungmin became the nation's first sitting president to be officially detained. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is set to be sworn in on Monday local time, planning more than 100 executive orders on the first day. And we take a look at what his return to the Oval Office means for South Korea. The ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas took effect on Sunday, hoping to end the brutal war. 3 Israeli hostages and 90 Palestinian prisoners have been released in the first phase. It's January 20th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yun Myungmin. We start our coverage at a local detention center where President Yoon is being held after a court ordered his formal arrest in the early hours of Sunday. For more, let's turn to our correspondent Kim Do-yeon standing by live on site. Do-yeon, I hear the CIO is now trying to bring the president back for questioning by force.
That's right, Jung-min. As you said, I'm standing in front of Seoul Detention Center where President Yoon has been detained since last week and has been refusing to be taken to the CIO for additional questioning. Now, as you'll be able to hear, there are supporters still at this hour showing support of President Yoon and their discontent with the CIO. However, the CIO has decided to take further action. Actually, in the afternoon, our team spotted what looked like cars from the CIO, and it was later confirmed that the CIO has indeed arrived here to possibly take President Yoon. According to reports, there are 6 members of the CIO currently here. The attempt is still going on, but the option of just holding the questioning session here has not been completely ruled out. President Yoon has only appeared at the CIO once, the first day of his detention last Wednesday, and has repeated that he's got nothing more to say and refused to be questioned by the investigators since then. Of course, Yoon has said that this arrest is not legal yet again and will likely continue to refuse to be questioned and even file for another legality review of this current arrest.
Now, over the course of this past weekend, the president went from being a temporary detainee to becoming a criminal suspect over insurrection charges. It almost sounds like a cliche now, but it is unprecedented.
That's right, Jung-min. Over the weekend, the CIO was able to get an arrest warrant that extends the period of detention until early February. The second warrant means that Yoon is now dressed in the detention center issued uniform with an inmate number assigned. Considering his status, he will have a separate cell and will be isolated from other inmates due to safety issues by the guards. Now, according to the Justice Ministry, he's had a mugshot taken and a body search, the same procedure as anyone else who has been arrested. The CIO is also using its legal options to pressure Yoon. Except for Yoon's attorneys, he'll not be allowed to be meeting have any visitors until formal prosecution begins for this case. The CIO cited the risk of evidence being destroyed as the reason, and remember, that is the exact reason why the court issued the second official arrest warrant. Of course, Yoon has called this ban just a way to push him around, saying if there is a reasonable evidence obtained by the CIO, how could he destroy any?
Right, I can clearly hear the protest behind you there. And I believe the police tried to raid some locations related to the president again. How did that go?
Jung-min, that's right. The search and seizure warrant is still valid, which it comes from last month, and the police tried to raid the presidential safe house and the presidential office for more evidence. Now, the goal was to obtain CCTV footage to see if there were any cars in and out of the safe house during the night of the martial law declaration, to see who was in contact with President Yoon. In addition, at Yongsan Presidential Office's Presidential Security Service offices, there are the footage servers, and that's what it seems like the police were trying to get to. However, yet again, the Presidential Security Service has declined to open up the premises, and the police had to turn back. That's all for now. Back to you, Jung-min.
That was our Kim Do-yeon reporting live from the Seoul Detention Center. In the early hours of Sunday morning, violence broke out at the Seoul Western District Court as President Yoon's hardline supporters stormed into the building after the court ordered the president's official detention. Our An Song-jin reports on the aftermath of the chaotic scenes.
Glass shattered on the floor with windows now wide open, revealing the offices inside. The immediate aftermath of the Seoul Western District Court riots provides a glimpse into early Sunday's chaotic scenes. Where I'm standing is near the rear entrance to the Seoul Western District Court. There's still several police officers on guard for any further unexpected incidents. Most of the glass has been cleaned off from the ground, but the building is still in disarray. The sign from right behind me of the court still lies on the ground, and if we take a look at the other side of the building, most of the glass that has been shattered is still temporarily covered. President Yoon's supporters stormed into the court building during the early hours on Sunday after the court's decision to issue an arrest warrant at around 3 a.m. Enraged supporters broke through windows and doors, while some sprayed fire extinguishers at lines of police guarding the front entrance. Some of these protesters swarmed into the building looking for Judge Chang Kyung, who was responsible for the decision to issue the warrant, trashing and vandalizing everything in sight. Multiple individuals have been arrested and at least 40 were injured, including riot police, some who were seen bleeding. According to the police, though the ages of those who've been arrested vary, what's notable is that more than half of them were seen to be men in their 20s and 30s. Some say that they have been influenced by what they've seen on YouTube or read in online communities. This chaos has resulted in social upheaval and discussions on whether the rule of law still exists. As concerns mount over extremist movements, both the ruling and opposition parties raised their concerns during Monday's National Assembly interpellation on pending matters. However, the ruling People Power Party said that the police should have prepared thoroughly in advance, while the main opposition Democratic Party suggested that the ruling party has incited such movements. The Seoul Western District Court said despite concerns regarding normal court proceedings, to reassure the public that the country's rule of law still exists, trials will proceed as normal. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
The rival parties are pressuring acting President Choi Sang-mok over an opposition-led bill to launch a special counsel investigation into President Yoon's short-lived imposition of martial law. The ruling PPP today urged Choi to veto the bill, criticizing as overly broad and unnecessary, as most key figures, including Yoon, have already been arrested or indicted. The main opposition, DP, on the other hand, claimed that it has incorporated the PPP's demands and called for immediate approval. This follows the bill's passage at the National Assembly on Friday after failed negotiations between the parties. Meanwhile, the acting president is reportedly reviewing the bill, noting that it's difficult to say whether it passed with a bipartisan agreement. In less than a few hours, the U.S. ushers in a second Trump administration. Lee Seung-jae covers the upcoming inauguration ceremony slated for Monday local time.
In less than a day, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will be sworn into office and return to the White House 4 years after his election defeat to Joe Biden. 4 days of inauguration-related events kicked off on Saturday, with a reception and fireworks at his golf club in Virginia, with around 500 people in attendance. On Sunday, he visited Arlington National Cemetery and laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And due to the extreme winter conditions in the U.S. Capitol, the Inauguration Day ceremony will take place indoors at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Monday is expected to be the coldest Inauguration Day in 40 years, with temperatures forecast to dip to -5 degrees Celsius, with winds blowing up to 48 kilometers per hour due to an Arctic vortex in the region. After Trump is sworn into office, he will make his inauguration speech before events close on Tuesday with a prayer service at Washington National Cathedral. Despite the extreme winter conditions, supporters of Trump came to celebrate his return with the Make America Great Again victory rally taking place on Sunday.
I got here at 5 in the morning. Yeah, and tomorrow the same. I was going to go out there now because of the freezing cold. I don't care. I've got to do it. I've got to do it now. I can't wait to dance that YMCA dance. I'm practicing. I'm hoping Trump will wave back. And yeah.
The rally took place at the Capital One Arena in Washington, where Trump held his pre-inauguration address. There, Trump promised to usher in a new era of American prosperity, adding that on Monday, the country will begin a brand new day of American strength, prosperity, dignity, and pride. Meanwhile, video sharing platform TikTok said Sunday it was restoring its service. The move comes after Trump said he would reverse a ban on the app when he returns to the Oval Office. TikTok said in a message to users that the service would be restored as a result of President Trump's effort. In an interview with NBC News' Meet the Press on Saturday, Trump said he would most likely give the platform a 90-day reprieve from a potential ban in the U.S. once he takes office. While a final decision hasn't been made, the soon-to-be U.S. leader is considering the extension for the China-based parent company to sell to a non-Chinese buyer or face a U.S. ban. TikTok stopped working in the U.S. on Saturday before a law shutting it down on the grounds of national security took effect on Sunday. Washington had warned of Americans' data being misused by Chinese parent company ByteDance. 이승재, Arirang News.
On the security front, the incoming Trump administration is expected to call on South Korea to shoulder a greater burden of the costs of maintaining U.S. soldiers here in the country. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Bae Yoon-ji reports.
Trump's approach to foreign policy is largely focused on the idea of putting America first. To do this, he's appointed hardliners to help him shape foreign policy in the new administration, including Secretary of State nominee Marco Rubio, who's taken hardline positions against China and North Korea. At a Senate confirmation hearing last week, Rubio emphasized that placing the interest of America above all else has never been more necessary than it is now.
Placing our core national interest above all else is not isolationism. It is the common sense realization that a foreign policy centered in our national interest is not some outdated relic.
The America First policy has led to the biggest problem that South Korea is facing, that Trump could renegotiate the deal on sharing the cost needed for American troops in Korea. During his campaign, Trump said if he was at the White House, South Korea would be paying the United States $10 billion a year, calling South Korea a money machine.
So it is pretty clear that after he returned to the White House, and he will make a relationship based on the cost-benefit calculation, especially for South Korea. Trump already mentioned several times that he is increasing the cost sharing for South Korea, so it's going to be another daunting challenge for South Korean security and in terms of relationship between these two countries.
With regard to relations with North Korea, there is a possibility that Trump might pursue nuclear talks with Kim Jong-un. During his first term, Trump held 3 summits with Kim, but the talks ended without any breakthroughs. Then on the campaign trail, Trump claimed that Kim misses him, implying that the regime would not be acting up once he returns to office.
Look, I had a very good relationship with President Xi, and a very good relationship with Putin, and a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un, who is a nuclear force that you won't even believe.
Trump recently named a close aide, Richard Grenell, as his presidential envoy for special missions, and Alex Wong, who handled negotiations with North Korea during Trump's first term in office as Deputy National Security Advisor. South Korea's intelligence agency now believes that Trump's recent appointments of top aides on North Korean issues further indicate a willingness to explore diplomatic talks. It recently assessed that if the Trump administration comes to a conclusion that complete denuclearization of North Korea is impossible in the near future, it could seek to take actions in the form of a small deal, such as nuclear disarmament or arms reduction. With less than a day left until Trump's inauguration, eyes are now on how his America First agenda will reshape international politics, as critics say his foreign policy could dismantle democratic norms and a decades-old international order. Bae Yoon-ji, Arirang News.
Trump has also pledged to promote an America First trade policy. Our business correspondent Moon Hae-ryun takes a look at what that means for U.S. trade partners like South Korea.
As U.S. President Donald Trump takes office for his second term, his aggressive trade policies, particularly targeting China, are raising concerns worldwide. Trump has signaled plans for sweeping tariffs, including additional levies on Chinese imports, as part of his broader protectionist strategy, aiming to shift global trade dynamics and strengthen U.S. leverage. However, such policies have raised alarm in countries like South Korea, heavily reliant on exports. For South Korea, Trump's trade war with China poses both risks and opportunities across a wide range of industries. Advanced technology sectors such as semiconductors could face increased barriers to trade as a result of the U.S.-China tensions. Trump's protectionist policies have also triggered concerns surrounding potential amendments to the Inflation Reduction Act and whether Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, as beneficiaries of the Chips and Science Act, could be affected. Experts say that while anything that has already been signed into contract is safe, possible future subsidies could be at risk. But the U.S. also stands to be negatively impacted as a result.
If President Trump really wants to use tariffs to induce semiconductor investment in the United States, tariffs has to be higher than 20%. And if the tariff for semiconductors do go that high, then it probably will hurt the United States more than help it.
The steel and automobile industries could also be affected as they have been historically important for the U.S. economy.
They have been really important in the U.S. economy, especially by taking important roles in creating jobs for a long time, but have lost their competitiveness in the global market. So the Trump administration is expected to implement higher tariffs on the goods that experience large trade deficits.
On the upside, some sectors in South Korea could benefit from Trump's tariffs. For instance, industries like electric vehicles and batteries, where South Korea has a strong presence, may see increased demand as countries look to diversify their supply chains and reduce reliance on China. South Korea's plans to boost its eco-friendly vehicle sector and advance battery technology through significant investments, as announced by Acting President and Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok earlier last week, may position it as a global leader in these fields. There is also growing anticipation that U.S. sanctions on China's shipbuilding sector will benefit South Korea's shipbuilding companies as they gain a competitive edge. As Trump's trade policies take shape, South Korea's industries and government will need to stay agile, balancing the potential risks and rewards in this evolving trade landscape. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
A truce has taken effect in Gaza between Israel and Hamas as of Sunday, paving the path for phased exchanges of hostages for prisoners. Lee Yun-jin covers the first such exchange in months.
Sunday was the first day of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire that has halted 15 months of war. On the same day, the first 3 Israeli hostages of the 33 that were agreed to be released under the terms of the ceasefire deal were freed by Hamas. The International Committee of the Red Cross facilitated the transfer, escorting the 3 women to an Israeli military checkpoint. Upon arrival, they were reunited with their families and transported to a medical center for examination, where the director said all 3 were in stable condition. Romy Gonen, Doron Steinbrecher, and Emily Damari were abducted on October 7th near a kibbutz and music festival during the Hamas attack. In Tel Aviv, thousands of people erupted in applause as they gathered to watch the news on large screens. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also released a video showing him receiving news about the return of the 3 hostages. Just over 7 hours later, the first of the Palestinian prisoners were released. Around 90 Palestinian prisoners and detainees were freed from Israeli jails into the occupied West Bank, arriving by bus to scenes of cheering and celebration. They had been detained for what Israel called offenses related to its security. This was the first of several hostage and detainee exchanges set to take place during the ceasefire over the next 6 weeks. The agreement reached in Qatar last week with the help of mediators calls for Hamas to release 33 hostages, including women, children, men over 50, and ill and wounded captives, while Israel is set to release more than 1,900 Palestinian prisoners. While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement that the government is committed to the return of all 98 hostages, major questions remain about whether fighting will resume after the 6-week first phase of the ceasefire. Yun, Arirang News.
Legendary Korean director Bong Joon-ho's first new film in 6 years, Mickey 17, will be released next month. Before its official release, he and the lead actor, Robert Pattinson, are on a promotional tour here in Korea. Here's our Park Go-nu with takeaways from that event.
The first Korean director to win an Oscar, Bong Joon-ho, is set to return to the big screen with his new film, Mickey 17. With just about a month to go until its premiere, global promotions have kicked off this week, starting in Bong's home country. Hollywood star Robert Pattinson, starring as Mickey, the main character of Mickey 17, is in Korea for the first time to meet fans. He and director Bong Joon-ho are holding a press conference at the cinema and are about to go meet them. Follow me.
안녕하세요. I always wanted to come and yeah, just really excited to show you guys the movie.
He also shared why he wanted to appear in Bong's movie.
That Bong manages to have his sense of humor very prominent in such a huge movie. I mean, you turn up on set and it would look like this giant Star Wars looking thing, and 4 or 5 directors in the world working now has that kind of level of appeal to, I think, to every single actor in the world.
Bong stressed that he had aimed to make a sci-fi movie with a strong human touch.
It's a sci-fi film full of the sense of humanity. Humans are printed out like documents from a printer, which in itself is very dehumanizing. You feel how miserable this character is. But despite that, you see how he overcomes his struggles.
He added he tried to set the movie in the near future to make it more tangible for people.
You couldn't even have imagined talking with ChatGPT in the previous decade. The events in the movie may seem like science fiction, but they could happen to you soon.
Fans waiting for the movie's release also waited from the early morning to see their favorite movie star and director.
Young girls who watched Twilight must have liked him. I have been waiting from the early morning because I was happy to see him at last in Korea. Everybody will be waiting for the upcoming movie.
Amid high anticipation, Mickey 17 is set to screen at the 75th Berlin International Film Festival next month, ahead of its theater premieres. With its premiere in Korea on February 28 ahead of other countries, one question remains: will the new movie create another global sensation? Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
Today's Taehan, which means severe cold on the traditional seasonal calendar. However, it is relatively mild throughout the day today. Seoul was as mild as early March during the day, and these milder conditions will continue tomorrow across the country, with Seoul reaching 8 degrees Celsius during the day. With milder conditions, the air continues to be murky all over the country. In particular, preliminary measures to reduce the high concentration of fine dust were issued in Chungcheongnam-do province for the first time this winter to reduce fine dust in this area. There's a possibility that this ultrafine dust will persist this whole week. Tomorrow's Seoul will start off at 0 degrees, Gwangju at -1 degree. Highs will move up to 7 degrees in Chuncheon, Gyeongju and Jeju, 11 degrees. This week will be milder than usual. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.